There was something I wanted to say about the whole women not being regarded when it comes to Black Lives Matter. And I feel like um, it's, I don't want to make it let me put it like this. I feel like patriarchy is just such a big thing in the whole world that affects everyone and not just Black people. And I feel like when we Black people have a problem that concerns us, patriarchy is not excluded. So I feel like that's why it's definitely not a good reason for it, but that's why it's so hard, even though we're suffering together. That's why it's so hard to understand why people don't accept or don't want to understand that this fight for our lives is a fight for all of our Black lives. And I think until patriarchy isn't in some way dismantled, it will be so hard to even try to fix it in our own ranks. And it makes it so hard. Even the whole thing about intersectionality, it's like we have a problem in the world with people accepting people that are different to the norm. And if we don't fix that, we can't fix it among us. We have to in some way, but yeah, I feel like it's a problem that humanity just shares, which makes it even harder to target for us.
Okay. But do you guys see any of these things actually being fixed? Like, do you genuinely believe that will happen?
I think it's happening. I think it's happening much slower than it should be, but I don't see why we shouldn't talk about it. I feel like there's a difference in talking about it when the oppressor is present. I feel like it's a little bit. I always feel like it makes the like, if I say white people, it makes white people look at us as like, oh, they're not okay with each other, so why should I be okay with them? So I feel like it's important to talk about this in like safe spaces like this, to target the problem. And I feel like that's the only way how it's going to change. And just in general, the whole thing about feminism, I feel like you have to talk about it. There's no reason why you shouldn't talk about it, because I always say I don't have a lot of hope when it comes to racism and making it better. Not because I don't think anything will change, but because I know that my children and their children are probably not going to live in a world without racism. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to do my part and try to fix the problem as good as I can. Even if I just want to make it better for myself and not for anyone else. So, yeah.
I feel like we can do more than one thing at once, too. Sometimes we get this notion that, like, okay, we have this Black Lives Matter movement, let's put a spotlight on police brutality, and let's just put this other thing to the back burner. Like, we can do more than one thing at once.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the more than one thing at once, this is something that I have been struggling with, like with creating a solution or creating, basically the solution. How do we get Black people to love and value Black lives? For me, that has been a complete struggle. Just like I said, I was from Peoria, Illinois. Just last night, 13 people were shot. And it's like, how? Why? And during like the riots and all of that stuff, oh, they just decided to have a shootout. How do it's like we can't not only, like you said, we're breaking down so many different things at once. Like we're trying to battle racism. We're trying to battle COVID in a pandemic. We're trying to get Black men to love us and to see us and to value our voice. You're fighting corporations that, oh, you can't wear your Black Lives Matter attire, or, oh, you can't do this at work. And then you have just the common Black issues in your own community. So it's like, I don't know how to properly like preach and teach and educate Black people to see Black people like my life matters too. And it's a pandemic. Why are we shooting at each other? Like, I just can't quite understand what the storyline is that will cause you to just go and kill people. Like, I don't understand. So when you said that we need to be tackling multiple things, that is one that's on my list. I agree.
Well, I feel like Where should I start? I feel like Black people need to start taking off the costume that society forced them to put on. Like, I feel like awareness is definitely a point here because, yeah, we all know that racism is present 24/7, but like majority of people from my school, for example, don't. So since we all know that it is, it's like, can we also get to the bottom of understanding that me, for example, I know that I'm Black, but I also have a lot of privileges that people with a darker complexion don't have. So it's like the us being like split up within the Black community is something that is also like on my mind heavy. It's like, how are we gonna start convincing people or letting other people see that Black Lives Matter if among each other we don't even value the presence of another Black person who is not of my complexion, or I don't know, who has a different heritage, something like that. And once we like take off that costume, that's where we could like build at least a common ground of what Black people are aware of, where the Black community wants to go, like what the goals are. That is definitely a long-term goal. That is nothing that I believe I will see, even though I wish I could.
So, as you said, Melissa, do you feel like you said that you guys also believe that the fact that a lighter complexion has more opportunities than a darker complexion? Have you guys personally experienced that as well? Like opportunities being taken away because you don't look the certain type or the certain way they want you to look?
I have definitely experienced my privileges. I was working for an agency, and my the manager, well, the CEO, was a white woman, and I was working in service. And let me say, we're like 10 people, I think, and I was the only mixed one. And then she was like, "Oh, this is so pretty to see, like all my workers are from like different countries and everything, and I love the diversity." So I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, this is a woman that's more woke, I thought. But the next sentence was, in my next life I want to be a mulatto as well. I was like, hmm? And she was like, yeah, your complexion's like perfect. You're not too dark and you're not too light. You have like the perfect complexion. And to me, that wasn't a compliment. Like, this is not a compliment. Like, you telling me, okay, if I was darker, like my mom, for example, you're telling me I wouldn't look as good. This is a huge problem, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
And also when I think about like mixed people who have
Joy, being from Germany but being a darker complexion, do you agree with them?
Talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, I do. I have to be honest. There were definitely instances where I didn't feel as appreciated, but I can't like tell you anything right now. But one thing that came to mind is that I think the problem in Germany as well, maybe in the UK, I'm not so sure, but a lot of us are like first generation. So we are like the first ones that were born here and went to school here and are like living our lives and trying to achieve something in this country. And I mean, for example, if you speak German, it's like, oh my God, you speak German so well. I'm like, okay, thank you. I was born here. You have to explain your whole like life and where you come from and everything that is you. You have to explain to people. And I feel like the whole first generation thing is a big problem because we are still trying to prove to people that we are
Also German.
just also German. And I don't know, that we're not just different. We're here and we're Germans and we were born here. And I feel like if you were maybe born with a white mother or a white father, it's and the black parent isn't as present in the life of the child, it's definitely harder because there's no other big influence that you can have, because around you most likely you won't have a lot of people that are from Africa. So you are automatically alone because you don't have, you might, because I was the only black child in my school. So
That was
that
good.
happens almost everywhere in Germany. Like, I feel like almost all of my friends were like the only Black or maybe one of two.
Yeah.
And being first generation is definitely, yeah, you have to fight for all the rights that you feel like everyone else in the world already has. Kind of weird to explain, but yeah.
How do you feel like it's in the UK? Like, do you feel like the fact that based on your complexion, you might have more opportunities than a lighter person or a darker person?
Personally, I haven't really experienced that when it comes to like white people versus black people. I haven't been in it. I don't remember being in any sort of situation where like a white person has sort of like made me feel different to another person who's obviously the same color as me, but either like lighter or darker. But I feel like that was something that was more so like an issue just between black people, like just ourselves. Like I feel like we actually just do it to ourselves. I feel like it was something that was very obvious for me in secondary school, like just seeing the treatment that lighter black girls get in comparison to like girls like me or darker than me, and mainly coming from obviously the guys, other black boys, and they could be the darkest of black boys, made it so obvious that like, you know, you're not my preference, like the lighter skinned girls are my preference. And it was so normal, like it was wrong, but it was so normal. Like it was just like, I remember it going on for years. It was just this phase of like boys just glorifying the lighter black girls, the mixed race girls, and then just us like brown skin, dark skin girls just being like forgotten about. So personally for me, I feel like it's something I've experienced more so just amongst the black community.
I have to agree with Susana. Like, it was such a thing. Like, especially like 2012. I feel like it was so popular. Like UK Black Twitter, it was like if you literally search
bashing black girls.
yeah, it like honestly it was so common. Like the disgust. If you literally, there was like this period, like kind of like maybe a couple of months ago, when everyone just got like the this you thing happened because everyone was like outing each other. It was literally like purge, like every like black celebrity, like prominent
influencer,
everyone was like, is this you? And then all the tweets from like 2012 were them just like saying the most horrific things, like things that I'm not even gonna repeat, like disgusting things. And it was everyone, like, and it was so sad. It got to a point where even dark-skinned black girls were saying these mad things because it was so like normal and common. And I guess like, oh, like to get approval from black boys, let me join in the black girl bashing, because it's like it's so normal. It was something so accepted. And I just even remember being in school, like being a lightie, yeah, was such, I can't even express to you guys how much like this phase, like the light skins were glorified, like pedestal, put on a pedestal level. Like even if, like obviously I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but even if that person, like that particular light skinned person or mixed race person was ugly, they would still get ratings just simply based on the fact they're light skinned. Like I remember this one day we were walking down the street, and I'm not gonna lie, like girls participated in this as well. The guys way more. I don't think the girls were bashing dark-skinned boys, but I know a lot of black girls in my school used to like glorify light-skinned boys as well. I remember this day we were walking down the street, and literally all the girls were like, oh my God, there's a lightie, like there's a lightie. The boy was so far away, you couldn't even see if he was like good looking or not, but everyone was just getting gassed like, oh my God, like there's a light-skinned boy. I was just thinking, looking back on it, it's just like, you were getting excited over a complexion. So it was like, I feel like that is so deep rooted, the fact that, you know, the skin tone is something that's more deemed as more attractive. And then people like will today will say, oh, I'm not like that anymore. Like I just like lighties or light skinned people because it's a preference. But you haven't actually like spoken about this deep rooted like self-hate that you have of like darker skin tones, and you'll disguise it as a preference, but no one really addressed it. No, we didn't talk about this phase until recently. And my personal thing is that I just feel like this whole preference thing is just, I just don't believe in it. Obviously there's some people that genuinely like, I don't know, it's a fine line, because for me it's like, you say you don't like
black girls or like dark skinned women, but the only thing that they have in common is their skin tone. So basically you're saying you don't like the color of their skin, because black women and dark skinned women look different. We all look different. So what's the thing that you don't like? The color of someone's skin. So to me, that's where the problem lies. And I feel like black boys don't like to address it, because then if they do, then they have to address their own things they got going on inside. And yeah.
When it comes to the dating part, I feel like, well, what baffles me is that, remember, I don't know who said it, but like the sentence of someone saying, it was such a long time ago, like, you know, slavery was so long ago, like, you should get over it. But then again, colorism has its root in slavery, and
Yeah.
as we all experience it, it's like we still see that in the dating world, these things are happening. So it's like, how should I get over something that is still happening right now? Like, the black community should get over something, even though there's colorism, there's like so many things that are still there from slavery, and they're still present, and nobody's talking about it. Like, nobody's really working through it. We're just superficially touching these topics.
We're conditioned to think those things are good, and the darker the skin are, oh, you're bad. The same way we have people from Africa, we're just naturally dark. What about us? We also beautiful. But I feel like in today's society, at least I have noticed that there has been now sort of kind of a shift, where there is now my black queens, my black kings, the darker the melanin, what Tupac said. Do you guys feel that way too, or you just think it's like a wave?
I think it's performative. I think it's so
wave.
performative, honestly, because there's like some UK rapper, I think it was like Mo Stack or something. He made some like song where he was talking about like black women, and then they'll say like, oh, black queens and this, but then they'll only like, they'll make a song or a statement like that, and then in their music videos they'll only have like white girls or light
exotic girls.
Yeah, exotic girls, and then they'll only date girls that like, literally basically every UK rapper's girlfriend is a light-skinned girl.
Facts.
And you're telling me that there isn't some sort of trend there, and that like it's just your particular preference. But okay, but yeah, I just think it's so performative. I don't vibe with it, because what you're saying is like, you're trying to appease to black women because you know that's your audience. So you're like, let me keep them happy, but in my day-to-day life, I'm not actually living up to what I'm saying.
So I have a quick question. So now that we've like pretty much discussed this whole idea of colorism within, I guess, society or within our culture, within like, music and things like that, how do we think that colorism is affecting the Black Lives Matters movement? Like, do you think that being a lighter skinned man or woman is going to allow you a better success rate dealing with police officers, or is it going to allow for you to be more cared about in the event that you do end up going through a tragic situation? Do you think your hashtag is going to ring differently than someone who is darker than you? Do you think that it's assumed that a lighter person's life matters more, or do we believe that it's just all the same? It's pretty much blended. They just don't care.
Personally, I feel like this Black Lives Matter movement, or what's been going on, has sort of made Black people realize more that we are actually the same, regardless of how light or dark your shade is. I think it's made us sort of see like this sort of like war we have between ourselves of, you're better because you're lighter, or you're worse because you're darker. Is sort of like, it's so like minuscule in comparison to the greater issue that's at hand. And I feel like we're now seeing that it really doesn't matter what shade of black you are going to be treated the same, or you're seen the same by the white man and by police officers and whatever. So it really just doesn't matter at this point. Personally, that's what I think.
I agree.
It's interesting because y'all know, we all know Rosa Parks, right? We know the whole bus situation and all of that. And it's interesting because Rosa Parks is a light-skinned woman, and her hair is of a grade that's a lot more, I guess, fine. When really Rosa Parks wasn't supposed to do that. It was actually supposed to be a little black, dark-skinned girl. She was supposed to do that.
I heard that.
And it's interesting, right? So when we look back in history, even historical things that have given us like, I guess equality, right? Conditional equality, but we even see like these historical things that happen. And even with that, a lighter skinned, fine textured hair woman was the face of something that a darker skinned, coarser textured woman was supposed to be the face of. And that's not by chance. So you bring up a good point about like, will we be treated differently? I will say, it's like for me personally, I guess I'm kind of in the middle. I don't know if I'm light skinned or what, but I'm more lighter skinned than I am darker skinned. And my mom is really, really light. She's like your complexion, Melisa, probably a little bit lighter than you. And I noticed growing up that even I, as somebody that was kind of more towards the lighter skinned spectrum, I guess, I noticed differences, or I kind of idolized being my mom's complexion. My mom has finer hair, wavier hair. She's lighter skinned. And my dad is dark skinned, and I'm kind of in the middle of them. And I even saw myself almost not liking my own complexion because of just like the experience my mom had, you know? And even like that subconsciously is ingrained in me without even knowing it. Or even I have a cousin, we look just alike, but she's dark skinned, and I notice differences in the way we get treated when it comes to things. We actually went to the protest, and I'm very like vocal and loud about stuff, so I was having like a debacle with the police, and my cousin, she was like, no, Ash, no, because she knows that the experience would have been different for her than it was for me. So I think in some ways it can change. And I've seen it with people that I know, or with people that tell me their experiences on campus when it comes to police. And I've had a pretty favorable experience with police, whereas my other Black, darker skinned friends, I don't know. It's a tricky thing because at the end of the day, they do see us as just Black people. But I think there's a lot of other things that go into how they perceive us too.
I agree. Because, like, for me, my mom is Kim's color, and then my dad is like Ivy and Joy's color. So I am kind of in this middle, and it was like, and like I remember one time this guy was like, "Oh, you know, you're so chocolate," and I just was like, "Who are you looking at?" Because I'm not. And so it's just like, and now we have this flip where darker skinned girls are now glorified and light skins are kind of just there in a sense, I guess. And so it's like society continues to change and it continues to flip flop. And I feel like we oftentimes fall victim because we're so exposed to it. We're constantly seeing it on our feeds. And it's like we start to fall into that trap too. But for me, I feel like the biggest thing is just really getting Blacks to just love themselves, because we are all different. Literally, we are all different shades, different hairstyles, different natural hair, everything. And it's okay. So do I believe that the police will treat us differently based on our shades? Yeah, because they treat us differently for everything else. However, I don't know if the outpour or the outcry of the community will change based upon a light skin or a dark skin.
I find that actually what you said, that's like so interesting to me, because I was very fortunate to grow up in a very like Black household. I had pictures of like heroes and sheroes in the Black community. I had like people like Harriet Tubman as soon as you walked in, and all my Black friends, not even Black friends, all my friends would just idolize this, thinking you have so much like Black history around you. And I've always wanted to be like clear, like just clearly be Black, rather than people question like, oh, like, where are you from? What's your mix? I want them to be like, well, no, listen, I'm Black and I'm proud to be.
What do you guys think that we can do as a community, as females or as women within our communities to like improve the movement, to help the movement keep going, and to get the support from a female perspective as well? Like, what change do we need to do? Like, what change needs to come?
Keep the conversation going. I feel like it's been like every time, I mean, Black Lives Matter has been around, but for example, in Germany, Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, everyone who was basically the core of Black Lives Matter, or why it started, never really came all the way over here, if it makes sense. Like the wave never came over here. It was it was in my circle, or it was like in my environment, but like a big part of Germany was never involved with that. So if, for example, my circle didn't continue the conversation within our circle and try to extend it, that would have died down just like it did in like, the mainstream society within Germany. Um, but I feel like even now, like the protest in Germany was bigger than I expected it to be, and I'm thankful for that. But I feel like Black Lives Matter over here seems like a wave. It just seems like it's gonna die down, and I don't want it to, but it's like people went to one protest and now they're like, okay, I've done my part. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's not where it stops. Like we just took like one baby step, and people are already like, okay, I've done enough work, now let me get back to, you know. So I feel like keeping the conversation going in like our everyday life, like me pointing out that whatever my colleague said was insensitive and racist, or me even pointing out to my mother, for example, that her thoughts are still like rooted in racist, in a racist country at the end of the day. Like that is something that is going to make the big puzzle like be completed, because if we don't start in like the tiny situations, how are we gonna stop the police shooting brothers and sisters?
Okay. Nemin, do you want to add on?
I'm sorry.
I agree with what she's saying. I think it's definitely important for us to, continue to like to create that narrative and to continue to have these like really important conversations. I would say that we need to have it in places where it's uncomfortable. It's super easy to have a conversation like this amongst ourselves because we're all Black women. We all kind of share one experience. So going back and forth isn't necessarily like the hard thing to do. It's almost comfortable. But what about when you're in a surrounding at work and you're surrounded by your white coworkers and they're saying things like all lives matter and not really understanding what the movement is about? How comfortable are you stepping outside of your comfort zone and saying, well, actually, this is what this movement is, and you probably shouldn't say this because this is what it really is. And, providing that education, I can say that sometimes historically, like, we've been fed up and saying things like, well, why should we have to be the voice of the race, or why should we have to be the ones to educate everyone on a subject that is so much bigger than we are? But at the same time, we have to recognize that this movement is all about, one, obviously wanting us to stop being killed, but more importantly, wanting to be heard. So if we're asking for an ear of everyone around us, we need to be willing to speak up as well and to take advantage of those moments when they present themselves. So I definitely say that we should urge everyone to continue to have these conversations, but also continue to do our own research. Just because you're Black doesn't mean you know everything. Just because you've had an experience doesn't mean that whatever that experience is unanimous for everyone. Push yourself, learn more about your history, whether you're in the UK, Germany, or in the United States. Figure out how we got to this point, because the whole of learning history is to make sure that we don't go back to where we've already passed, right? We learn and study history because things have happened in the past, and 9 times out of 10, they're likely to repeat themselves if we didn't take a lesson from it. So who are we to not continue to educate ourselves, but to expect people that are not being affected by something to go ahead and seek that knowledge for themselves when it's not bothering them? We need to seek that knowledge and be willing to give it off to everyone else. So that would be my standpoint.
Ernie?
I was gonna say, like, she was like, "Are you picking up when it's uncomfortable?" Absolutely. Because at work, it just got to the point I was letting them have it, because I'm like, how many days are gonna go past before you address what's going on? How many days are gonna go past before you say, I noticed something's different, are you okay? And so it got to the point where one of the supervisors was like, well, I didn't know what to say. I said, so you opted to say nothing, and silence is violence. So I'll start this conversation and I'll let you know what's going on. And basically the tipping point was one of our white supervisors. She got on that Zoom call, happy-go-lucky, and was like, oh, I want to tell you guys what happened last night. So it was like, okay. She's like, yeah, I was asleep in my bed and I heard this loud boom. She was like, so I just thought somebody, slammed the car door. Come to find out, basically the police were banging on the door trying to serve a warrant, and her husband was like, okay, y'all have the wrong house. Like, we've lived here for about 5 months now. Those people that you're looking for are gone. The police were super apologetic and was like, I'm so sorry for, the disturbance and waking up your daughter, blah, blah, blah. And she sat on that call and she proudly said that. And I told her, never would you ever share that story in the middle of everything that's going on. So I let her know. I said, clearly you're unaware of what's happening right now. I said, but Breonna Taylor was not granted those same privileges. I said, she was granted a no-knock warrant. The police did not identify themselves. They too had the wrong house. And her husband or her boyfriend didn't get the privilege to have a common conversation with them to let them know that they messed up. They were met with gunfire and she's dead. And her response was, oh, I didn't know. I've been seeing everything that's going on the TV, but I just turned it off because it's so much happening. And I calmly let her know, you have the privilege of turning it off. I'm Black while I'm watching the news, I'm Black while I scroll on social media, and I'm Black on my way to work and while I'm at work. So these are the conversations that we will be having. And that conversation led to basically now every Friday after our morning meetings about our clients and everything, we have a whole forum now set up to kind of just talk about everything that's going on and to talk about the Black Lives Matter movement or different struggles that we're having. Because for me, it got to the point where like I couldn't find a balance between trusting God and seeing everything that was going on. So for me, it was just like, I was super overwhelmed because it's like, yes, I have faith in God. Yes, I believe, all things work together for our good. I believe all of these things, but right now I'm feeling broken. Right now I'm feeling defeated. And so it was very hard to turn that off to now try to come to work and appease white people and to take care of white people and to kind of compartmentalize. So it has been a relief to be able to educate my coworkers, and because I am at this point the only Black staff in our group. So I let them know, like, I'm thankful that y'all not making it seem like, oh, you're the only Black staff, here's the microphone. I'm like, it's a point where like, no, they actually want to learn. And I don't know. So it's just like you make a change where you are. Yeah. And I think from there, it expands.
Okay, that's good.
No, like I like to speak about things like racism and stuff, especially at workplace, but with the whole George Floyd thing and BLM being so big and being on social media, being tired of being tired, I just figure that it's pretty traumatic to watch and consume all of these things. And I'm here if anyone wants to speak with me, but I'm not going to play the educator because, we have 2020, we have Google, we have Netflix, documentaries, everything.
Just because I feel like I'm not an educator, it's not my job. The next person might feel the same way, but the change has to start within us.
I think one thing about the whole education part is that if you do decide to educate people, then try to not like, don't do too much. What I tried to do, because there was a point in my life when, because just like one of you already said, that it's important to get educated about it, just because you're Black, it doesn't mean you know everything. So there was a point in my life where I got more educated about this whole issue, and I felt like I had to fix the world. And every time there was someone who did something wrong, I would speak up, which I would still do. But then I would go into an actual conversation with that person or actually try to teach them something that I wasn't able to actually teach them in that time. So what I tried to do is tell them, okay, this was wrong. And if they disagree, I would try as polite as possible to tell them, okay, there's this book and there's Google. If you really want to know and if you really care, you can find out yourself. And if they don't, it is a problem. Yes, but then it's like, it's not my problem anymore. Like, if it sounds a bit selfish, but because I had this feeling when I had to tell everyone about racism and everything, I came home and I was drained because there was no more energy you couldn't, because it was your life. It's your life every day, and you then have to tell people and then have to beg for acceptance.
Yeah, I agree. Because
Boundary.
Yes, thank you.
Ashley?
I agree because, after the protests at my school that I mentioned earlier, I became I wanted to, like you said, I became consumed with trying to teach everybody what I know, because it just boggled my mind that people really operate within this world and have no clue. But I became very, very drained. My mental health was all over the place. I was becoming a token. speaking for the whole Black community, and it was annoying. And it actually, from those protests, I've been in meetings with administrators since like October, and we keep telling them it is not the job of oppressed people to teach you or be a soundboard for our trauma. My trauma isn't just something that I'm just gonna spew out just so you can understand what I go through. It shouldn't have to take that. And like y'all said, there's educational tools. My main thing really is educating Black people about Black people. I would rather do that. I actually am starting a book club. It's called Reading for Our Lives. And I want it to be specifically a space for Black people to learn about ourselves, because there's people doing this work. There's people that's doing this research that can help arm us when we're navigating this world. And also, like you said, learn from our past and be able to use our past as leverage to encounter every day, because the past is still interrupting the present all the time. We talk about colorism and the roots of colorism. Well, the roots of the colorism comes from our past, so we have to understand that and know it for ourselves, because a lot of us we can't be ignorant about our own education. And actually, I've been reading into like British education, like things that happen in the UK. I'm reading a book. It's called Why I'm Not Talking to White People About Race, or something like that. And the author is British, and she actually opens up the book a lot about British history that I didn't even know about. So that's really my main concern. I'm trying to find out what the experience of Black people from every facet of this world, what is it like being Black globally? And I'm not too concerned with teaching white folks. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just not. We brought in a white, he does research on African American history, and he teaches white people about how not to be white people. I don't know how to explain it, but like he teaches white people like how to how to respond, not even respond, but how to listen to Black folks' trauma and how to navigate their experiences and conversations with Black people. So instead of bringing like a Angela Rye or somebody else to our school, we brought a white man to talk to white people, because Black people should not have to continue to be soundboards and continue to teach them. And that's just my opinion. But I get, you know, if somebody do something problematic, I'm gonna speak up, but I'm not gonna drain myself.
I agree. I mean, I don't mind. Obviously, I feel like doing it all the time is draining, and I do agree completely with the fact that why should the burden be on Black people to solve a problem that white people created? So I feel like there needs to be more. My lecturer, one of my seminar leaders at uni, she's a white woman, but she basically does that as well. She teaches other white people about their whiteness and about the position that they like play and stuff like that, and how they can go about stuff. So I do think it's important for white people to teach other white people. Like, it shouldn't just be on us. Like Ivy said, the racist UK birthed racist America. Like England literally taught America what, like, it was a blueprint. So it's not like, oh, we suffer more than you. It's like we're all Black, and racism and anti-Blackness isn't something that's like only for America. It's something that's, in my opinion, is universal. So yeah, I just feel like bridging the gap between Black people from different countries, and yeah.
I think we just don't know y'all history, or we don't know really anything. And I'm sorry to say we, I'll say me. So because like junior year of college, I became friends with 2 Africans and a Jamaican. So that was like my taste of like diversity and actually like learning things and trying new foods and all of that. But one thing that I have been seeing too in social media is like, why can't we find, you know, African American actors to play certain roles? Why do we have to find Black men from the UK? So like that's one thing that I've been seeing as far as like the division. Like the guy from Snowfall, he's like, he has a whole accent, and we was like, wait, what? He's not African American? So I think it's just like the whole, like you said, it is a disconnect, because it seems like a whole world away. So to hear like y'all having the same issues as us, and like she was like, oh, in 2012 we was going through the light skin, dark skin. Like, dang, us too. Like they had the whole brown paper bag test to see how your skin complexion, see if you brown, dark, or light skin. And so it's like, I just think that we simply don't know. that we share all of these same experiences. So conversations like this, I'm just sitting here like, wow, you know, we have so much in common, and it just seems like a world away.
Yeah, I definitely like do get the sense that like America is sort of in this bubble, and it's like, and as well, because I can understand, because even in like the UK, in terms of like, I would say less so much now, but like in terms of like the like movies and music, it's all been very like American centric. Like we've been fed a lot of American
Heavily
media.
influenced.
Yeah, so like even when we like, I can't speak for everyone, but there's been a lot of American influence. Like even when I was younger, we used to play with Barbie dolls in American accents. I don't know why. It's just a thing, because all the TV shows like Disney Channel, everything, Nickelodeon is all American. Like I'll be talking like this to my mom, and then get my dudes like, hey, like girl, like I don't know where the accent comes from, but I guess it's that kind of media influence. So I guess like in America, it's like as well, because it's so big, it's like, I don't know, everything is kind of like, just like I said, in a bubble. So you guys don't really know maybe much about other countries, where I feel like a lot of other countries know so much about America.
Final thoughts. I think it's been really interesting hearing everybody's experience, but it's also been quite enlightening to sort of like realize that we actually all relate on a lot of things, even though we're all based in you know, different places of the world. It's nice to see that as Black people and as Black females, you know, we've been so open to hearing each other's experiences, and we've listened to each other, and even when you don't agree with each other, you've given your opinions respectfully, and yeah, this was nice.
Melisa?
I feel like it's impressive how even though we are so far apart, I can feel like whenever somebody says something I agreed, I was like, yo, I can identify with that so much. At the same time, I realize how differently the seeds are being planted in our minds, and like how differently it affects us. When I'm talking about mindset and like norms, and you know, I also am very hopeful, actually, to be honest, because I feel like this is the first time that people our age are talking and like communicating with each other, and also able to do that, and are able to get that mindset exchange, and like, you know, talk about these type of things. And yeah, like I said before, like I might not be the person to see the change, like the big change, but I'm happy about every little step that we are able to take. And it's actually been very empowering. And it's been very, yeah, it's given me more hope actually to talk to y'all. So thank you for your views and for your honesty, and for like being aware of each other's safe space. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sky, final
Hey.
thoughts.
Sorry guys, I literally moved to the countryside, so my internet it keeps going off. But I don't know. I think it's just really important to have like discussions, and you know, keep talking about things. Like I think someone mentioned before, like going to a protest is all well and good and getting your Instagram pictures, but the work doesn't stop there. And it's not, you know, having a discussion isn't something that's particularly hard, but it's something that still goes a long way. I feel like everyone's learned something, everyone's shared something. So even things like this is still helping to keep the movement alive. So yeah, I feel like it's been really good. And I just want to say thanks to Ivy for giving us the platform to talk about things. So thanks, Gal. And obviously thanks to everybody else for like, you know, sharing their experiences and stuff.
Okay, Nia, final thought.
I do definitely just want to say thank you to everybody that shared. I think there's definitely power within all of our voices. Each of us has a different platform. Each of us has a different job to do and a different mission to accomplish. And I think that us coming together is doing that. It is definitely an amazing stepping stone to be able to share with all of these beautiful women. So I just want to say thank y'all for being open to the idea. Thank you, Ivy, for creating the space for us to do this. And thank you for having the mindset to be like, no, I'm gonna do it. I don't care if people late, we gonna wait. Oh well. Like, no, we are going to do this, and you didn't let anything stop you. So thank you for that. And I just want to say, as my final thought, there is nothing like a Black woman. So we got this. And keep pushing.
First off, I appreciate all of you guys taking the time of your busy days and nights, because right now in Germany it's 15 minutes before 11, and y'all still here having this conversation with us. And I feel like this topic has been on my heart for such a long time, because I have seen it happen in different stages. I've seen it packaged differently, and I just felt like, you know, I can't expect my neighbor to start the change. I have to start this change somehow. And me explaining the situation to each one of you guys, and guess we're all on board, and they felt the same way, just showed me that, you know, there are like-minded people everywhere, just not in the UK, not just in Germany, but it's like, as she said, Ashley, this is like a worldwide community of Black women or Black people, and I'm just doing my part. So thanks, ladies.